Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords. Listen to this story for the word that means a government.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it a historic mistake.
So Israel is not bound by this agreement. We cannot and will not allow a regime that calls for the destruction of Israel to obtain the means to achieve this goal.
Regime is another word for government. Usually it has a negative meaning. Regimes can be like dictatorships because often they allow few freedoms.
In our news story, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu criticizes Iran's government when he calls it a regime. Now, the next time you hear the word regime,
you will know what it means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords. This word often is used when talking about something that is written.
The revisions began in 2016 for the 1.5 million students who take the SAT each year.
A revision is a change that corrects or improves something. This story is about the SAT, or Scholastic Aptitude Test, that high school students take to get into American universities or colleges.
The company that gives the test is changing words and information on the test. Another example of revision is when a document is changed before it is published.
Now, when you hear the word revision, your American English will be good enough to know what this news word means, and you can use it in a conversation.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords. This word is one that you might hear in stories about crime.
In what officials describe as a bold and courageous operation, U.S. forces quietly moved into an area near still dangerous Benghazi Sunday, capturing Ahmed Abu Khattala, the suspected ringleader of the 2012 attack that left 4 Americans dead.
Ringleader is 2 words put together, ring and leader. It means the person in charge of a group of people. Usually, they are involved in something illegal.
Our story was about the capture of the suspected ringleader of the 2012 attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya. Now, when you hear the word ringleader,
your American English will be good enough to know what this news word means. Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords, where we teach you about words you might hear in the news.
Here is a word with 2 meanings. First, our example comes from an election story.
Supporters of Afghan presidential candidate Ashraf Ghani are dancing in the streets of Kabul. Preliminary runoff election results show him leading by 1 million votes. His supporters are elated.
A runoff is held if there is no clear winner after an election.
The second election includes only the top candidates.
Another meaning for runoff deals with the environment.
Runoff is water from rain or snow that flows down a hill or across the land.
Now, when you hear the word runoff, you will know what this news word means, and you can use it in a conversation.
welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords, where we teach you about words in the news. You might have heard this word in a story about international trade.
Burmese officials say new investments help support political reforms, but U.S. officials could tighten sanctions again if those reforms do not continue.
Sanctions. This means one or more countries have stopped or limited trade with another nation. It often is because the country being sanctioned is not obeying international law.
Sanctions also can include limiting economic aid to a country.
Now, when you hear the word sanctions, your English will be good enough to know what it means.
For more news words, visit our website, learningenglish.voanews.com.
Welcome to Voice of America's Newswords.
This story is about U.S. airstrikes in Iraq. Listen for this word.
Scope. The U.S. military has conducted more than 150 airstrikes in support of forces fighting against Islamic State militants in Iraq. But the scope has been limited. The military says President Obama has not instructed them to target Islamic State leaders, as it has targeted leaders of al-Qaeda and al-Shabaab.
Scope means the area that is included in something. The airstrike area, or scope in our story, was not a big one.
There is also another meaning. To scope something out means to find out about something. Now, when you hear the word scope,
you will know what it means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords, where we teach you about words in the news. This is a word you often hear in stories about violence or war.
Here's White House spokesman Jay Carney talking about whether more U.S. troops could stop the violence in Iraq.
There was sectarian conflict, violent sectarian conflict in Iraq when there were 150,000 U.S. troops on the ground there.
Sectarian means something to do with groups or sects. Sectarian violence is when different groups fight each other or against a government.
Sects can be based on religious, ethnic, or cultural beliefs. Now, when you hear the word sectarian,
you will know what this newsword means.
welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords. Here's a story about Apple's new iPhone 6 and how it works for purchases.
Secure. With the iPhone 6 NFC or near-field communication chip, iPhone users will be able to make secure payments at hundreds of stores by simply waving their phones. But recent surveys suggest the majority of Americans are still wary of using cell phones to make purchases.
Secure means something is free from harm or danger. Apple says people can make secure purchases with its new phone.
The company says credit information will be safe.
A secure place means people have to get approval to come in or go out.
Now, when you hear the word secure, you will know what this news word means.
Welcome to Voice of America's Newswords. When you listen to stories about the U.S. government, you often hear this word.
Senate.
If there is no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it adjourn under the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.
The Senate is one of the two major groups of lawmakers that make up the U.S. national legislature.
There are 100 senators, 2 from each state. Along with the House of Representatives, they make the nation's laws.
Senators also approve treaties and high-level federal officials. Now, when you hear the word Senate,
your English will be good enough to know what this news word means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords. This word is taken from a story about a recent climate deal reached between the U.S. and China.
Significant.
Chinese smokestacks put out more carbon dioxide than any other countries, more even than the world's largest economy, the United States. So Wednesday's announcement by U.S. President Barack Obama and Chinese President Xi Jinping was significant, says Duke University climate policy expert Tim Profeta.
When you say something is significant, you mean it is important. Something significant is special and worth noting.
Now, the next time you hear significant, you will know what this news word means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords. This word is one you might hear in many different stories. Generally, it has a positive meaning.
Solution.
Despite different views of events that led to this crisis, Kerry says the United States and Russia agree on the importance of finding a diplomatic solution, and both made suggestions about how to de-escalate the security and political situation.
A solution is something that solves a problem. It is something that is used or done to fix a difficult situation. When there are problems between countries, there can be a peaceful or diplomatic solution, or a military one, war.
Now, when you hear the word solution, your American English will be good enough to know what it means.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords. This word has to do with international relations.
Sovereign. Listen to the U.S. General and NATO Commander Philip Breedlove.
We've seen a nation cross an internationally recognized sovereign border and annex by force a portion of a sovereign nation. That changes the way we do business.
Sovereign means the right of a country to govern itself. A sovereign nation is independent from other countries.
General Breedlove complains that Russia took over part of Ukraine. Now, when you hear the word sovereign, your American English will be good enough to know what this newsword means.